Hello everyone, this is Ashwin here. In this video, we are going to explore mal customer segmentation data. So this is a clustering problem in machine learning. So clustering belongs to unsupervised learning. So we don't have any kind of output labels here. So if you have output labels means that is related to supervised learning. So in this data set, we are going to explore the customers based on few attributes. So let's dive into the data. So the content is you are owning a supermarket mall, and through membership cards you have some basic data about your customers like customer ID, age, gender, annual income and spending score. So spending score is something you assign to the customer based on defined parameters like customer behavior and purchasing data. So you can also assume it's like amount they are spending on the mall. So based on that also you can assign the spending score, and that is the purchasing data. And here the problem statement is you want to understand the customers in order to easily converge the target customers. So you can make sense out of it and send it to the marketing team and plan the strategy accordingly. So if you like segment the customers based on a few attributes means you can plan it accordingly, like based on how many people are in one cluster, you can plan some strategy and implement it for marketing purpose. So that is the objective we are getting here, and you can use this same workflow for any other customer data if you want. And it will be very helpful if you don't know the output label means this is the only way you can get some insights from the data. So these are the exploration about the data set. We will explore in detail in the notebook. So let's dive into the notebook. Just click on this new notebook button and it will go through here. Now let's run this. So this is the data we are having. You can also download the data set and load it normally. So before loading the data set, let's import the modules. So import modules. I just added one thing. So also we have to make a lot of code. Now let's import all the basic attributes. Import pandas as PD, import numpy as np, import seaborn as sns, import matplot lib.pyplot as plot, and we also need to import warnings, and we have to set matplotlib inline and warnings dot filter warnings ignore, and this. So we have imported all the basic modules. So throughout the flow we can also import additional modules if we want. So we will see that later. After that we can load the data set. Load the data set. Now df equals pd dot read csv, and just copy this path, paste it here, and see the head pointer and see the head. So this is the data we are having. So we have customer ID, that is just an ID. You can drop it if you want. And other important attributes are gender, age, annual income, and spending score. So based on these attributes, we can cluster the data and visualize it. So these are some basic information. Let's see some statistical info. So statistical info, df dot describe. Okay, it's just loading now. So we have total of only 200 samples in the data, and the range is having minimum and maximum. You can see the ranges here. This is 1 to 99 and this is 15 to 137, and here 18 to 70, that is the age, and this is just account. You can ignore this. So these are the numerical attributes and only one is category. so that we can see it in data type info, df dot info. So here only one object, so that is a category, and other objects are integers, so that is a continuous values. Customer ID, you can drop it. So let's get into the exploratory data analysis. As there are like no null values, we don't have to worry about any kind of pre-processing. Exploratory data analysis. First, let's explore the categorical. So that is gender. So it is easier that way. SNS dot count plot df of gender. Run this. So in the shopping mall, I think we are having almost equal distribution, but the female is the majority because they usually do the purchasing most of the time. So they tend to purchase more than the male. I think that's like general insight I have been observing in all the data like big mart sales and any kind of data. Usually if it's related to spending means I think female are selecting things compared to male. So that is obvious and we don't need to worry about this categorical data. Let's go for some disk plots in order to explore this numerical data. So let's display some plots. So SNS dot disk plot of df of first is age. Run this. So we are having age from 17 to 70, right? So that distribution is we can clearly see, and the majority is in 30 to 35 range. So in that range only we are having the peak of the curve, and it's almost uniform distribution. So this data is good. We will go to the next one. SNS dot disk plot and the annual spending. So that is annual income. So annual income also is in the range of almost, I think this is 15 to 130 or 135. So that is the range, but majority are in the middle. So that is in 60. I think this is the annual income in terms of thousands. So if it's say 100 means that is $100,000. So that is the data we are getting here, and it's also in uniform distribution. So this is also good. And the next one, SNS dot disk plot. Okay, disk plot df of spending score. Okay, here the spending score is somewhat it's like a different curve, but it is almost uniform. But we are having the peak in 40 to 60. That is so much obvious, and apart from that we are having less values in the range of 0 to 40 and 60 to 100. So that is the range, and so this is also good, but the majority of the spending score lies in between 40 to 60. I think based on some other plot we can see it very clearly. So apart from that we can also display a correlation matrix. So correlation matrix, maybe we can have it in the markdown, but anyway we are exploring the dataset only. So we will just have it here. So I think these are the basics exploratory data analysis, and we can go for correlation matrix. Okay, now core equals df dot core. Now plot. Okay, we don't need to plot it, I guess. SNS dot heat map core anot equals true. CMap equals cool warm. and I guess that is enough. Okay, we are having a good correlation matrix here. So just ignore this customer ID. Anyway, we are going to drop that. And apart from that, we are having those three values: age, annual income, and spending score. We will just see one part of the diagonal. So annual income is highly correlated with the customer ID, but I don't know, it's not making sense. So here age is somewhat correlated with the spending score. I think depends on the age, the spending score is somewhat dependent to each other. And annual income to spending score, there is not much correlation between them. So I think that is about the correlation. So we have only three numerical attributes. So I think that's it. We'll go to the next one. Maybe we can start doing the clustering in 2 dimension and 3 dimension. So for the clustering, you can also convert this categorical values into numerical like 0 and 1 and include all the data for the clustering. You can drop the customer ID, that is not necessary. Apart from that, we can use all four of them for the inputs. Currently, I'm just going to go with 2 and 3 in order to see the visualization. That's why. Or else you have to use PCA and plot the graph. So I don't want to do PCA here. If you want to know how to use PCA and do the clustering means, you can click on the right top corner of this video. I've already done a clustering project before, so you can see it, and you can also implement for this data set. So let's go for the clustering now. Clustering. So now first we will go for two features. Cluster on two features. So I will create df1 equals df of, again I will use annual income. Okay, I think I have to type it. It's difficult to type now. So I'll say df.head, and we can just copy and paste this. So it's easy that way. And spending score. That's good. Now df1 dot head. Now we have only 2 dimension data. So that's good. We can go for some scatter plot to see how the data represents in 2 dimension. So scatter plot, SNS dot scatter plot of x-axis. X-axis will be annual income and y-axis can be spending score. So df1 of annual income, comma df1 of spending score. Run this. So this is the scatter plot we are getting. I think you can clearly see, you can, if you want to cluster means this part you can have it as one cluster, and this is one cluster, and this is one cluster. And if you are going for 5 means, so this center one will be one cluster and all the four corner pods will be other 4 clusters. So that's how we can easily cluster using this plotting itself. So let's do the k-means clustering. So for that we have to import the module from sklearn.cluster import k-means. Okay. Now we have to do some analysis, like how many clusters we have to choose. So for that, so I will have errors. So actually this is within cluster sum of squared errors. I'm going to store all of this here, and based on this we are going to plot a graph. So for I in range of 1, 11, so that is we are having around 10 clusters. So k-means equals k-means of n clusters n clusters equals I, and now k means dot fit the data, that is df1, and errors dot append k means dot inertia. Now let's run this. So it just quickly done the process because we have only 200 samples. That's why. If you are having so many samples, means it will definitely take so much time. And the next one will be plot the results. Plot the results for elbow method. I will show you why it's called elbow method. So we are going to select some cluster value. The graph will be in terms of elbow, that's why. Now plot dot figure fig size equals 13,6. Now plot dot plot range of 1,11. So that is the range we have set it here, and this will be errors, and again plot dot plot the same thing, but we are going to have a line width here. So line width, okay, it's not showing. Line width equals 3, and color equals, you can set it in any color. I'm going for red. Marker equals, let's go for 7. Now you can set it X label and Y label also. X label, that will be number of clusters, and plot dot Y label, that will be WCSS within cluster sum of squared errors. And next we also need to set the X tick. Plot dot X tick np dot a range 111 1, and finally plot dot show. Run this. Okay, I think I made some mistake. Okay, this is good. Unrecognized marker style. Okay, this is 8. Yeah, now it is good. Now you can see the number of clusters. So this red line is almost similar to an elbow. So we have to choose the elbow point. So here you can clearly see 5 is the elbow point. So we can choose 5 as the number of clusters we are going to choose. And based on this graph, you can also imagine you can easily cluster it. Now let's leave some code. Now let's do the clustering and get the label. So km equals k means of n clusters equals 5, and km dot fit the data. Now for the label, I'll say y equals km dot predict, again the data. Now we can add this data to the data frame to see the label. So df1 of label equals y, and df1 dot head. So that's good. Let's run this. So this is the cluster label for each sample. That's how it represents. And now we will plot it for the scatter plot here based on the label. Now SNS dot scatter plot of x equals the annual income. Okay, this is having this, and y equals the spending score. So that's done. Data equals df1, hue equals the label. So label, so hue means it will define the color for each label, that is the cluster. And you can set the size, so size will be 50. Let's run this for now. Okay, I think we can see the labels and for the corresponding cluster, but the colors are not much well. So we can also select the colors. So palette equals in a list, we can pass the colors. I will have red, green, yellow. What else is there? Blue, orange. That's good. Okay, now it seems good, but this yellow is like so much worse than I thought. I guess we have to choose some other color. Let's go for brown. Okay, now it seems good. So as I already told you, it's already clustered as I told you in the previous plot. So the middle one is one cluster, and apart from that, all the remaining four paths are clustered together. And this is the analysis. So based on this, you can easily plan something based on the customers. For this particular customer, you can send some offers, and for this particular customers, you can send some specific offers. So for those purposes, it will be very helpful. And you also have the cluster label, and you can easily get the customer ID using that if you add it to the original data set. So that's how it works. So far we have done it in for two features. Now let's go for 3D. Now for 3D we are going to reuse some of the same things. So here I'm going to add age. So here cluster on three features. So df2, add the age, run this. So based on these three attributes, we are going to cluster it and plot it in 3-dimensional plot. So for this also we have to do this elbow method. So for that I'm going to copy this, paste it here. Instead of df1, it's df2. Run this. And for the plots, I can copy this and paste it. Essentially we are just reusing the same thing, and you can see this is also like 5 is like a optimal value here. So you can easily choose this, and here these values are replaced, so it's not an issue. So that's done. And again here we will copy this and paste it. So here clusters are 5, and this will be df2, predict based on df2, and all these things will be data frame 2. Now let's see the cluster results. So these are the cluster results we are getting for the particular age. So we have to plot it in 3-dimension. So let's see whether matplotlib supports 3D. So I think we have to import some module for that. 3D scatter plot. Okay, now fig equals plot dot figure, fig size equals 20,10, and next axis equals fig dots add subplots, add underscore subplot. It's not suggesting me anything. So 111 projection equals 3D. Let's run this for now to check whether it is working. Yeah, it is working. We can proceed further. Now we have to use scatter plot. So access dot scatter of df2 of age of, we have to specify based on the label, we have to filter out. We have like 5 clusters, right? So df of label equals 0. So based on these things, it will filter out all the age based on the label. And similarly, just copy this and paste it here. Instead of age, we have to use the other attribute, annual income, and label will be same, and here it will be spending score. So those things are done, and we have to set the color. So C equals what color we have set it before. We will go for red, and after that we will see S equals 50. So that's done. So this is for one cluster. Similarly, you have to do the same for remaining 4 clusters. Okay. Now 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we have to change the colors only. Red, green, blue, brown. The last one can be orange. I think these are the colors we have used. And apart from these, we can set the axis so we don't confuse it. Plot dot x label, that will be age. Plot dot y label, that will be annual income, and last will be plot dot set z label, and that will be spending score. Let's go for plot dot show. Okay, I have set df here, so that's the thing. I think we have to replace it for all the things. So that's done. Let's run it one more time. Again, it's showing some error. So I made a mistake here. Here you can go for axis, and this is also axis, and here you can add the set, so it will be of same format. Let's run this. Okay, now you can easily see this. So this is the 3D plot of scatter plot. So this is in one orientation, and you can also change the orientation if you want. So to change that, you can set axis dot view init 40, 190. So this is one view, and you can also enlarge this figure. So for that, you can enlarge this. Okay, now it's showing a bigger one, but let's go for 20 and 20. 30. So finally, this is the final plot. So x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis are there, and based on that you can see the cluster. So there are some plots you can just interact with these points. So that is also available, like you can rotate these axes and see how the 3D visualization is gonna be. So here you can see some visualization, but it's not that much clear for me. So here you can see one cluster, and here one cluster. This is the middle, and those are other corner, and this is another corner. So like that we are having the clusters. But here in the 2D representation, it was like so much easier. You can easily represent the cluster in 2D in order for you to interpret easily. But so this is for 3 dimension. If you want to use all the 4 attributes, means you can use PCA to reduce the dimension into 2, and you can plot it like this. So that is also possible. Maybe you can do it as an additional exercise and share your results in the comments. So that will be helpful for others. And that's it, guys. This is the analysis for mall customer segmentation. Hope you like this video. Just click on the subscribe button and turn the bell notification on, and I'll see you guys in the next video.